Hello and welcome to Mystery Monday number 14 on this June 3rd. It is the penultimate Monday for most of us, the last Monday for seniors. Um, so our Mystery Mondays are coming to a close for the year, but fear not, there will be Mystery Mondays again next year. So you have that to look forward to. But I do want to get started here. It's number 14. It is the case of the Floral Killer. In 27 years of conference management, nothing like this had ever happened. Nothing even close in all that time. For 27 consecutive years, the annual convention of the International Flower Growers Association had been held under the watchful eye of its executive director, Jack Atkin. In all that time, Jack reflected, there hadn't been a single mishap. Even 5 years ago, when some idiot reset the air conditioning and all the African violets died, his staff had rescued the day. Or the year the association's chairman overserved himself in the hospitality room and wiped out the potted mums display when he bent over to pinch a bud Jack had covered in time with extra azaleas. Now this. He looked at the telegram again. Urgent. Stop RCMP. Confirms professional hitman at convention. Stop known to be a heavy smoker. Stop. Almost certainly on assignment. Stop. Mary B. Jack set the telegram on one of the marble-top tables in front of him and stared at the ornate fireplace way down at the other end of the Leamington room. Normally, the polished oak paneling of this room and the plush, overstuffed furniture, rich carpet, and glittering chandeliers that hung ever so low never failed to give him a feeling of comfort and warm security. Not this morning. This morning, he knew not only did the convention have a killer, but that he or she most likely had already been at work. Right here in this room, right there by the fireplace. Directly in front of the fireplace stood an old and beautiful high-backed love seat. It was one of the pieces of furniture that symbolized the Victorian origins of the Leamington room, and it faced the fireplace for more years than anyone could remember. Jack gloomily shifted his gaze from the fireplace to that love seat. From where he stood, he could not see the bloodstains on the right side of the love seat. But they were there. The cleaning staff had seen them only a half hour ago. A pair of matching chairs were on either side of the love seat, and both of these had bloodstains on them as well. But it was the four missing people, the four missing strangers, that had Jack so distressed. I should have been suspicious right away, he was speaking out loud to himself. At least I should have watched a bit more closely. The International Flower Growers Association was a tightly knit group. Everyone knew everyone else, and they had all known one another for years. Jack was a godfather to no fewer than 17 kids in 6 different countries. There simply were no strangers. Yet in the space of 1 hour, 2 days ago, 4 totally new people had registered for the convention. Scollins, Jensen, Roboski, and Winston. At least those were the names they had written in the register. One of them was a geranium grower. No coincidence there, Jack thought. Another, bulb specialist. Tulips, daffodils, that sort of thing. A third was a specialist in cut flower. Management. The fourth, Winston, wasn't even a grower, but a botanist. Now they were gone, all 4. So were the registration papers. Last night the 4 of them had been sitting in the Leamington room having sherry in front of this old fireplace. Now there were bloodstains, cigar ashes, and possibly the most negative publicity the flower business had ever faced. Everything, Jack had insisted. I want absolutely everything, all the facts, anything. We've got some time before the police get here. Don't leave out a single detail. I want you to question every single one of the hotel staff and scour their rooms. Maybe somebody left something. If we can find out which one is the killer before the police do, we might keep the press from blowing this out of proportion. They had done as he asked, and now it was time to put the facts together. Jack walked through the room to the scene of the crime as his staff began to assemble. Let's have it, he commanded. I don't care how you know what you know. Just lay it all out. What we need are some leads, some facts to put together. I'm positive the killer sat right here, he said, pointing to the love seat. "Every spot has bloodstains." His secretary spoke first. "The rooms were empty except for this." She held up a tube. It looked like medication. "This was in Hrabaski's room. It's probably for that rash or skin disease, whatever it is, all over his right cheek." "Had to be," piped the morning desk clerk, who had just joined them. "I saw him. No, twice I saw him rub it on. He sort of sneaks it on. Doesn't want anyone to see him do it." Jack was not overly fond of the morning desk clerk. "You'd be self-conscious too if your skin was that bad," he said pointedly. He turned back to his secretary. "Anything else?" "Just this." She held up an earpiece aid. "This was in the room registered to Jensen. He must have been deaf, or at least hard of hearing. And this." She held up a tiny battery. "Guess this is a spare." "Or a dead one," Jack offered. Jack's assistant coordinator spoke up. "I'm not sure what good this is, but Scollins and Jensen apparently got a real blast from the botanist about smoking their smelly cigars." "Well, it might mean something," Jack said, whatever, somewhat distractedly. "We know there were cigar ashes under the love seat and one of the chairs. What we need is something to put this all together." "I might have it." It was the youngest member of the group, Jack's new accountant. She was attending her first convention. "I spoke to all the hotel staff who were working on the floor. One of the staff distinctly remembers serving Hrabaski in one of the single chairs. It was the rash again. Hard not to remember it. And the botanist was next to Hrabaski. He was the only one drinking sherry. That's how she remembers." The accountant took a breath. "But I don't see how all of this is going to tell you who the killer is." "Don't bet on it," Jack said, triumphant. "Get me a piece of paper. I'm pretty sure who was sitting in the one place where there were no bloodstains. Scollins had better have a pretty good explanation when the police find him." And so the question is, how does Jack Atkin know where Scollins was sitting? As you make inferences and try to figure out uh, why Scollins is the culprit and where he was sitting, consider this image. You've got two chairs on either side of a love seat, and seat B and seat C are listed as well. Consider certain self-consciousness, potentially about a skin issue on the right side of a face, and how you might try to hide it, where in fact there were blood stains, and how that might lead you to led Jack Atkin to Scotland. So I hope that this image provides some help to you. So here we are back at the worksheet. The first question is, what can we infer about the killer? Where were they? Where was that person in relation to the other four? And number two, what frustrated Atkin so much about the unfortunate event? Consider his track record. Number three, there are many facts, quotes, realizations that the author uses to attempt to confuse the reader, you and I and us. What things catch your eye as possible leads to the solution? Shoot for three. And then finally, answer the following question. How did Jack Atkin know where Scollins was sitting?